I'm Shannon Kinney-Dew, creator of A Free Spirit Life.
And I'm Ashley Walburn, owner of Home Holistic. And together we are bringing back the Mindful Mama Movement podcast.
Mindful mothering is about nurturing yourself while you nurture others. It's about consciously awakening to your inner wisdom, strength, power, and peace as a mother in this changing world.
From discovering your newborn to accepting and loving the people who've left your nest, our movement is inspiring mothers to be authentic and to live empowered lives.
We're so happy you're here. The Mindful Mama Movement podcast is sponsored today by A Free Spirit Life with Shannon Kinney-Dew. Shannon, that's me, is a holistic life coach, intuitive human design guide, and an artist that's bringing you 20 years of experience, training, working with clients through coaching, classes, online and in-person retreats, and companion products to help you live your most authentic, empowered, and inspired life. I really thrive at working with conscious entrepreneurs, heart-centered business leaders, healers, nurturers, mothers, big dreamers, those of you who are going through a life transition, but you know there's something more to life, and you are ready to live rooted in authenticity, courage, creativity, and freedom to be who you're meant to be in this lifetime and to savor the life that you want to live. To learn more about my readings, coaching, and products, you can go to shannonkinneydew.com. That's shannonkinneydew.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Home Holistic. Ashley Walburn, our other wonderful host of this show, has created a one-stop shop for pre- and postnatal services. She is a birth doula, an educator, a family therapist. She has been helping the Kansas City community and beyond women who are going through pregnancy, birth, and after to live your most authentic mothering experience and really create a birth experience as well as the beginning of your motherhood journey and beyond that is authentic to you. To learn more about Ashley and her services, go to homeholistic.com. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mindful Mama Movement podcast, episode 43. I'm here with Ashley. Ash, this is your favorite season. Summer is here.
It's my favorite season, and it's kind of silly because I'm officially an empty nester, but I think it's the feeling of what summer was raising kids for me. I'm always like, I'm the best in the summer and on snow days.
Okay, tell me everything, because that guy, you're speaking to my soul right now. Like, it reminds me of that excitement as a kid. And I was telling the kids the other day, you know, I've noticed that lightning bugs or fireflies, we grew up calling them, I think, do you call them lightning bugs or fireflies?
We call them lightning bugs.
Yeah. So I think that's a Midwest thing. Lightning bugs, when I was a kid, came out late July. I remember this is Northern Iowa, and it signified summer's half over or almost over. And I remember that feeling, like I was so excited to see the lightning bugs, but also like the dread that, oh my God, summer's almost over. And now, you know, we kind of have that same feeling, but they're coming sooner, I've noticed too. So the lightning bugs are now coming out sooner, so we can enjoy them with that pace of summer.
All summer. I think there's less of them, you know, where we used to sit in our backyard and there was a yard full of them. Now we see 4.
Yeah, that's
wah,
true.
wah. Yeah. It's for sure not
that
as
excitement
plentiful.
of summer, you know, still, and then having kids. So tell me now.
I'm not really a morning person. That I think that was always I didn't love my energy trying to get kids out the door. The mornings that went well, I was always so proud of, but you know, let's say my kids went to school 5 days that week. There might be one or two that really were easy for me, and everybody got out the door okay, and nobody was crying or screaming, and I just don't like it. I don't like kids coming home and then having homework, or then I've got to run to a game. I liked being at their games. It was just the busyness of the school year. Always something to do, always something to do. And I packed their lunches and made their breakfast. And so, I'd make like eggs and bacon and cut fruit and 4 lunches, by 7:30 a.m. And so then I was always like, we need to go to bed.
Yeah.
So I like the easier way of summer. I think that's just my natural way. I like to have coffee or tea for a long time. I loved when my kids were little going to the pool. We went almost every day. We went somewhere. We would go to the pool. We would go to Shawnee Mission Park and go on a long hike. We would do something that just felt like play. And I feel like the school year for me steals that from me. Maybe the kids love it just as much, but
Yeah.
I love the reading books together and just being outside and sitting outside and not kind of relying on electronics for entertainment like we do, or my family does way more when it's cold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. I mean, I think the break in routine, being able to slow down, it's like the exhale of the year. Anytime you have a snow day, you're like, you remember that, like you're holding your breath, like, I hope I hope they cancel. And then it's like,
same high school. Yeah.
Right. Which is why that was always the day we'd make cookies. Cause like, who has time to make cookies any other day? But like, summer is that like exhale but not to everyone. I know that it can be a stressful time too. We might talk about that, but I love that reminder of being able to go slower. We just got back from a short trip, and my favorite part of it is I said, I don't care where we go, and I love having activity. I love doing things, but I need a slow morning. If I can drink my coffee sitting and it's still warm, that's a good start to a morning in the summertime for me.
I'm not, like during the school year, I'm making coffee, getting out the door. I want to sit outside. I want to water my flowers. I do think, and for my sister, summer was harder for her. Her work schedule didn't change.
Right.
So she was getting her son like out the door into some kind of camp very early, or bringing him to my house often. And she felt like she was missing out on these times with him, but she had to go do it. So she didn't get to go to the pool in the park and the easier day. And, I always worked, but I taught a few yoga classes, attended a few births during those years. So I might work a few days, but it wasn't ever like getting kids out the door, getting homework done, shit, we forgot to write this paper. That all of that just felt like a burden, like a weighted backpack for me. And summer feels like I throw the backpack off and we can stay up late or go to bed early, or who cares? It's a little different for me now. I have 3 college age boys, and they're all home for summer. And I can see that they are, like, where's my friends? Where's my friends? They're messy. There's a lot of frozen pizzas and things being made after I've gone to bed. And then there's remnants of it in the morning. And so we're, before we got started, listeners, that Shannon and I were talking about transitions, that like transition in childbirth is so hard. And what's on the other side of it is really awesome. But that transition part, it should be called something more like, depths of hell or something. It's just really hard for a short amount of time. But then it's really great. And that I feel like I'm in that right now with, kids have been home a couple of weeks and their friends are in and out, and there's often extra people sleeping here in the morning that I didn't know were. So, and like the messes, just like two of my boys are mowing lawns. And so it just seems like there's lawn clippings like in my bed. And so, like those things, I'm like, what were you doing in my bed after you mowed lawns? Well, I was charging my phone. I'm like, but you just laid in there, I guess, with lawn clippings. I had to like wash my sheets the other night at bedtime because there was so much lawn clippings. So that's my transition.
Things you don't think about. Yes, that's a different part of summer. Yeah, that you're experiencing right now. Well, that's so true. That's so funny. Actually, it reminds me of there was a lotion, and I think the Gap put it out when we were like, I don't know, in the 90s, and it was grass clipping. Like it was a grass smell. Fresh cut grass. That's what it was. Fresh cut grass. And I got it because I love that smell so much. But yeah, I wouldn't want it in my bed from
everywhere.
That's what Chris was saying when he left today. He's like, why are there always sticks all over? Like we're in that stick phase. Like, do they just bring sticks? They drop them off at the front door. They bring them in. I'm like, well, I think they're it's games. It's all part of the games and imaginary play, but it's like you're constantly finding sticks and acorns and pockets of leaves and all the things. So yeah, that's the mess of summer. But I love, love, love what you said, which is transitions are hard no matter what. And it's like, I always remember, that feeling in May when like the kids are getting ready to get out of school, there is this excitement. And then there's this like, oh, almost dread at the same time, which is right. The feeling we have in those transitions. Cause it's like, what are we going to do? Like I've talked to a lot of moms who are entrepreneurs who are used to their kids being gone during the day. Maybe they're able to take a little lighter load, which is a true luxury as an entrepreneur. You can kind of flex your schedule a little bit. However, it still then, puts pressure on mom to figure out how to fit in work while taking care of the kids. And there's just a different routine to work out. And so many are like, how do I keep my kids off of the iPad? And what am I going to do with them? And, and I think that just that reminder, I love what you said, is that the transition it is hard no matter what. I think about like, oh my God, I have to shave my legs again and like wear a suit and like find a suit that I like and feel good in. Once I find the suit and I start shaving again, I'm smooth sailing. Right?
I got back in that routine.
Right. So once you get through and just that reminder that, it doesn't last forever, and you get through that transition, and then it's a little bit more flow and ease, and you can enjoy it.
I did always have, and I've shared this on here several times, that there's two people, but like when my oldest, who's 29, was a newborn, one of my mom's friends brought me a gift, like a blanket. And she said, don't write me a thank you note. I just want you to hold that baby and savor it. That is what I wish somebody would have told me when my babies were small. And so I did. And it was hard to not write the thank you note because I was still like a people pleaser back then. But I remember sitting my grandpa gave me a recliner. And I was sitting in my recliner and I was just trying to memorize like my baby's weight and like how big he was on my body. And that like this, like other moms wish that they could memorize this. I'm going to memorize it. And I didn't, you know what I mean? But I remember that moment being so deeply present. And then later when my oldest was probably 15 or 16, one of his friends' dads shared with me, we were on a like big group vacation, and I was on a walk and he jogged and caught up with me. And there'd been a bonfire the night before, and my three little kids were like all over me, as little kids are, like somebody wants me to make them a s'more, somebody wants to fall asleep in my lap, somebody wants me to check their butt for ticks, whatever it is. But they were all over me. And the next morning, this dad, Jim, said, Ashley, I couldn't keep my eyes off of you last night. And I thought it was creepy at first, but turns out he was just really walking down memory lane, watching me with the boys. And he got teary-eyed and he said, Ashley, I remember the last time that Connor reached for my hand. And that just doesn't happen anymore. Man, oh man, I wish I would have remembered, like, savored it. Like, what if this is the last time? And those two things have guided my parenting in so many ways. I'm so grateful for it that sometimes, I'm like gritting my teeth and I don't know if I'm going to survive this week.
Yeah.
And then I remember, like, I get to tickle their back, or we get to not wake up early, or whatever it is, this crazy thing that's happening right now. This crazy thing is the life. This crazy thing, this is the moment that we prayed for, that we hoped for.
I love that. It's really a challenge to stay in the present moment, to savor life when we're racing out the door, when we feel the pressure of getting them places on time, finishing work, getting homework done, getting them to bed. All those things can really suck out the joy of the present moment. And again, it's that reminder, that exhale of like, wow, what can we do? Maybe that's what summer is in a way. That's really the reset that I want to lean into this season, is exactly what you just said. And hopefully we can carry some of that with us throughout the year. But that savoring, that slowing down, that resetting really to what matters most to you. And when we're talking specifically about parenting and being a mother and being there with our children at any stage they're at, yes, it's you and I, as we're getting to that older kid and you having these adults now, we just know how fast and it transitions into another season of parenting. And so that's a good reminder for all of us. It's like, I've probably said this before too, but even when I vacuum, I usually leave a couple Lego pieces in the corners because to me, I will miss that. I love when the kids are immersed in their toys, and it's my way of savoring and saying, I can handle this mess, even, a little bit, because I know it's not going to be forever and I'm really going to miss that.
Yeah, I took pictures. I probably shared this before, but the last couple of years when, somebody was finishing high school, that a bunch of friends would be over. And because I have all boys, most of the people that come over are boys, but there's always a few girls, frankly, that make their way to our house as well. But there would be sometimes 15 pairs of shoes at my front door. And I'd walk in, it's dark outside. Will and I've been at dinner or something, and I'm tripping over all these shoes and I want to scream at everybody. And then I pause and I'm like, oh,
yes.
All of a sudden, there's not going to be any shoes at my front door. And so I have several pictures at my front door where it's just shoes.
Yeah.
That I'm like, this thing's pissing me off in this moment. And I'm so frustrated. This thing is going to be the thing that I'm going to be kind of lonely for.
Now, can you do that with the grass clippings?
I don't know about that. But, frankly, the grass clippings was, for me, it was kind of like a shoulder shrug, like, I guess there's just grass clippings all over my room.
Right.
That I don't want it to happen again. But maybe a little bit. That for sure there's things that I'm like, we get to do this thing that is, I don't know, I always wanted snow days, summers, holiday breaks. I wanted those things to be our family reconnect, reset, reboot.
Yes.
That I did have that awareness that these are, I don't know, the sweet spots of the year for me. I don't think it is for everybody. I think there's a lot of people that those are not the sweet spots. but I think we all have a sweet spot. There's parts of parenting that is, our favorite, and parts of it that we're like, I hate the bedtime routine, or, whatever. Dinner time is always hard. That there's parts that just, I look back and I like to just hold on to them with a really tight grip, and other things, I'll push right off a cliff, like I don't want to do those things again.
I was walking around the neighborhood the other day, and this sweet mother is she's got a 2-year-old, and he's riding those Strider bikes. And
I love them.
Yes, and my kids all started on those, and
so they came after our day.
Okay.
And I remember seeing kids on them, and I was like,
Grayson started at
that
18
in my mind.
months. I mean, literally, he was riding a bike at 18 months with those things. And it just I just became that, old grandma looking at her, just like, oh, I love that time. It was just a really sweet moment we shared. And then I was at the library, and I saw this mom, wrestling, changing diapers. And I'm like, oh yeah, that one I'll leave. I mean, it's interesting how you pass those, or going to the zoo and you see the big, I used to have that big double stroller that I jog with. Those things aren't even in my awareness anymore. And then when I see it, I'm like, okay, that one I'm really, don't have to savor that. I can let
once your kids are able to ride bikes and you don't have to have a jogger stroller anymore, what a relief. So glad I'm over the car seats. And car seats are just changing. I'm like, what? They're just sitting backwards till they're 34 years old. That there's so many things that change. And I mean, I am with moms all day, every day, and often I'll get the call about, what do I do about, let's say, a car seat? And I'm like, don't ask me. That is something that I'm not current on. I don't know those rules, and I really don't want to know them until I become a grandma and my people are telling me what I've got to do. Then I'll relearn it. But
yeah. Oh, I love it. I love this conversation because, when you're talking about that sweet man who's can't keep his eyes off of you. One of the things that stuck with me when I had my first, and this would be 15 years ago, is that talk about transition from not having a child to having a child, and one that did not sleep and had to have movement at all times. It was a very hard time for me. And I remember rocking and holding him, and talking to a friend of mine who was also a yoga teacher. And I'm like, I just can't get to yoga anymore. And she's like, Shannon, holding your baby, breathing with your baby is your yoga. That changed my life. It was really I could do my deep breathing with him, and we could sync up our breathing, and that kept me in the present moment. That is a memory that I memorized, that feeling of your baby laying on you, breathing together. And that in the midst of all the crazy is, I think, what mindfulness is, and the mindful mama movement that we're talking about, why we come to this show and share these stories, is to just create a moment of mindfulness. And so I would love to just ask our listeners, who was that person for you that said that one thing that just was like that breath of fresh air, where it just made you pause, it made you savor, it made you remember that this too will pass. This is another, it doesn't mean it's easy. As you said, Ashley, at the beginning of this conversation, transitions, life in general, being a mother, there's so many moments that are difficult. What can we do in the moment to breathe, to pause, to flip the switch in a way, to reset the way that we're looking at things? That these sticks that someone's tripping over and grumbling over as they get, walking to the car, can also be the swords and the Harry Potter wands in a child's, and so that's what I try to do as much as I can.
I think you do such a good job of it. I'm amazed at how you have an ability to shift, even just shifting to doing homeschool. This is just not working for my kids. And I was talking to a friend who's got same age kids, girlfriend who lives 4 hours away is coming to visit for the weekend. And she goes, I don't know where she's going to sleep, or I don't know what do you do? And so we just kind of talked through it. And then she talked through the same scenario with some other neighbors that have younger kids. And they were like, you will get her, a hotel room, basically, like you keep those kids apart. It was really interesting. And I said to my friend, this is literally yesterday at the pool, and I said, one thing that I have found is every mom kind of thinks her way is right. And what I have found that is the truth is, it is. It's just right for me. It's right for my kids. It's not, I'm not going to throw what I do, cleaning up my kids' pizza mess when I really want to wake them up and pull them down the stairs by their hair and make them clean it up. That's what there's like an inner my mom inside, like, get your down here. That I also am like,
Yeah.
I'm on my last moments of pizza left out on the kitchen counter. I know I'm on the last moments. And so what I'm doing isn't right for, Jane or Sally. It's just not. And I think your natural tendency to raise your kids as individuals is very inspiring for me. And I remember when you were switching to being full-time homeschoolers, that you're like, it's not necessarily a popular decision.
Panic.
And
yeah,
but it is what feels right for me. And everything, I think when we do that, that is just being mindful that, like, whoa.
Yes.
Do I really care about this?
Yes.
Is this something that is of value to me and my family? And if it's not working, like, we've got to be able to turn on a dime and then meet our kids' needs in a different way than maybe what I needed or what my other kid needed.
Yeah. I also
being able to meet them where they are.
Yes, in your family. Ashley, that's so beautiful. Like, reminding all of us to tune in to what works for us, because I also see this pressure that women put themselves under where, and I used to do this too, but what's coming up to share is like, we are so busy during the school year and the structure of the school year and what our society tells us the structure should look like. And then when summer comes, there's also, and now, like your sister, there are people who have to lean on, say, the summer camps. But there is a pressure, I think, for people to feel like they have to keep that activity going, or they have to keep up with the way other people are fulfilling their summer. So I used to feel that pressure a lot, where I really like no schedules, because I like structure. I have to get my work done. Structure and routine in a day works for me, but that just means like, this time we're going to do something, and this time, is mom's work time. But the freedom to not have to rush out the door and be somewhere at a certain time and go to every summer camp and where's the sunscreen and all the things, that doesn't work very well for me. And yet I used to put my pressure on, like, oh my God, are my kids not doing enough? And like, should I
oh my God
for this and that?
I
and
remember
I
being at like stuff in March, some mom's night or whatever, and all the moms already had their kids signed up for summer stuff. And I was like, why didn't you guys even know to do that? I don't think that I've now learned that's just the way I also function, is that I kind of, and Shannon and I talked about this week, that I'm more kind of directed by my calendar. And so for me, it was like, I got to get the kids out of school. Now I'm thinking about summer. And I never was like, okay, what are they doing the first 2 weeks? Okay, when are we doing soccer camp? Vacation tends to be more fluid, even for me, like, oh, we need to do something, what works. But I'm for sure not thinking about it a bunch in advance. And those moms that do, I hope that's just easier for them. They're set in front of a computer, they got the list of the camps, and it's easy for them to check it off their list. not stressful or not feel like if I don't do this, I'm a shitty mom. And
Yes.
that I felt that with a lot of things, my husband had to smack me around figuratively a few times. Like, do you even care about this? And I'd be like, oh no, I don't. That's just what everybody else is doing. And that we don't have to follow what anybody else is doing.
Yes, yes. Well, that's the thing that I hope that we can all pause and just really ask ourselves, am I doing this because I feel like that's what everyone is expecting of me, or am I doing this because this supports our life and this feels right for our family? Another thing that's coming up is, I think of summer, and I do think that this is one of the gifts of what I have learned from my own kids is, play, spontaneity, curiosity, wonder, having space to be bored. I mean, that's where creativity and new ideas are really formed. But I think our society in general, we're very uncomfortable with space, with the pause, with like, oh crap, what do I do with them? What do I do with these kids? What do I do in this moment? What do I do with myself? And so I get that. That's why I try to at least have some sort of routine or structure, because otherwise it's like, oh my God, he's been on the iPad for 5 hours and I didn't,
Yeah.
he doesn't, it's funny too, because my youngest, my little manifester, if you haven't heard our human design episodes, you can go back, but I asked him, he has a really great math tutor and she loves him and he loves her, and she invited him to join her, and he could do it a day a week, or he could just do like a camp with her. He's like, Mom, I said, what if you just do it for one time and just see? He's like, I don't know, Mom, I just want to be free this summer. I just thought it was so funny, but also like he knows himself, and he does better with that freedom, to a point. So anyway, I just think it's a good time for us to reset and say, what works for my family? How can we get through this transition together? But really paying attention to is, am I doing this because it's expected, or this is what everyone else does? Or am I doing it now because I'm exhaling? This is supportive for me and my family.
Yeah. 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 I do feel very clear that all my kids kind of play differently, that they recharge differently, and so do I. And so, when we can kind of figure out the flow that is like really working for everybody, um then
Yeah.
it's this then those are the sweet moments. We won't regret those. I really um I have, like, my parenting philosophy is no regrets. Like, the decisions made, I'm sticking to it, or the decisions made, I'm not sticking to it because I feel like I might regret it. That I want to be 110 and look back on this period of raising kids and feel like we made the most of it, or the parts that are hard for me, like the school year. I mean, when Owen graduated high school, the first thing that I thought is, I never have to get anybody up for school again. That was literally my first thought was, okay,
I did it.
yeah, I did it. Yeah, but it's really hard for me. And probably I would have been a better homeschooler than
I will say that is truly, after COVID, I was like, I will never go back to that. That yelling at the kids to get out of the door, it did not work for us, for sure. But yeah, there are moments where you're just like, nope, this is my non-negotiable. Like someone else can do that, but I'm not doing that anymore. But yeah, or you just do it and then you celebrate, like, wow, what a victory. Because there are things like we don't, like the changing diapers, of course, like would we choose to do that? But we do it. We do the things that are hard, that are messy, that are, not our favorites, because we care and we know that, it's not going to last forever.
yeah,
right?
it's not going to last forever. And I'm amazed just almost every single day of my life that, like, what mothers will do for their children. I'm amazed at it. That we earlier this a few months ago, we had a mom who was on a vacation had some complications in her pregnancy and had to stay there. She was in New York and had to stay there. And in order to kind of get her baby to a viable, time to birth, and she was in bed, basically could barely change positions. She was having bleeding and some issues, and she basically just had to lay in bed for 34 days and get that baby to a place that it could birth. And she did it, and they're doing really great, but still birthed at 32 weeks, but would have had very low likelihood of survival had she not done that. And she left her family in Kansas City and stayed in New York in the hospital for this baby. And I have millions, all of us have done something that was such a big sacrifice. And sometimes it is. My natural tendency is to unplug in the summer, but I've got to be at work every day at 6 a.m. That what we will do for our family is maybe the most inspirational thing for me, that what mothers will do. It just amazes me. So good job, everybody. Good job. Good job.
Good job, everyone. And so, Ash, before we wrap up, I'd love to ask, what is your hope for the rest of summer? Do you have a plan on how you're going to take care of yourself? What's going to be your reset routine, if you will, or thing that you want to make space for this summer?
My hope is, I know that I'm on borrowed time, even just with kids coming home for summer, that I have a couple of years left of a full house. And so really just drinking it in, savoring it, like your favorite bite of dessert, holding it in your mouth for a long time. But I feel like that's just, I want to have fun with my kids. I also need rest. I mean, that I'm doing a really good job of prioritizing my rest. I never have really, and struggled with it. So taking good care of myself and setting some boundaries with my kids. We could have fun together and you guys can have people over, but you're not going to keep me up until 3 o'clock in the morning either, which has happened in the past. So I'm just savoring it already, even though the pool's just opened, for us this weekend, that I want to be at the pool. I want to go on long walks and go to the lake and do all the things that just feel like time together this year, as if this were the only one that we were going to get. How about you?
Yes. There's only so many summers, right? So what are we going to do with this summer? I love prioritizing rest. I love that. I feel very excited about nurturing some of my new hobbies, if you will. I signed up for a flower essences practitioner class. So I'm actually taking some time to learn and grow and dive deeply into this flowers, learning how to use flower essence. I'm so excited. And it, to me, is just the perfect time to do this in the summer. So because I'm just, getting into planting wildflowers. And so I want to get in the dirt a little bit and definitely water. I want to get to the pool. I want to get to the lake and just enjoy playing as much as I can. So it's, a little bit of learning, a little bit of, as I've mentioned, structure, but really just space to see where summer takes us. I just feel this like the sun and this light open days where I'm not sure where we're going, but same, prioritizing some of my needs too in the midst of all that we carry throughout the year is also something I'm doing. So yeah. So everyone who's listening, what are you hoping for your summer? What ways are you going to prioritize your rest, your needs? And also, how can you use this time as a pause to savor whatever transition you're going through, whatever, I don't know if we want to savor the transitions, but breathing does help in those moments. So breathing through the transition, pausing to savor the moment, share with us. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to us on Instagram or our website. We'll leave all those links in the show notes. And Ashley and I are going to take a little break from recording as we prioritize our rest and savor summer. We'll be back with more great episodes of the show to come. So you can check us out at mindfulmamamovementpodcast.com. Shoot us an email. What kind of topics and subjects would you like us to explore in our next season? And what have you loved about the show? We'd love to hear, like, what episode of this last season did you love? What do you want to share with us? It really warms our heart to hear from you and to have you share our show with others, because Ashley and I, we run our own businesses and we love plugging into each other with these shows because we could talk for hours. We love talking.
And we often do. We often talk for an hour before we get started. And every single time we're like, we should have recorded that. Our check-in is always really great. So we're going to try to do that a little bit better too, that get a little more kind of Shannon and Ashley, the Shannon and Ashley comedy hour before we get started. Because
we're also
between
growing.
the two of us.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, there's 7 boys between the two of us, and life is crazy, and it's very funny to hear the things that just happened. Like before we started, my son, who mows lawns in the summer, came and peeked his head in and he said, "Where's that peanut butter shit?" That's what he said. And Shannon and I both were like, what did he just say? That, you know, you can't make some of this stuff up. That, like, well,
right.
I think it's just the same place the peanut butter is kept always.
You know what's so funny about that, Ashley? And it reminds me of when we used to record at your studio when Grayson was 3, and he's like, you know, just like, "Mom, I gotta go poop." Like, we've been doing this show in the middle of motherhood, in the middle of the mess, right? All the things. So that's what Ashley and I hope the show is always, is just that authentic checking in, you know, sharing, and we love to hear your stories too. And I was gonna say, we're growing. Our listenership is growing. We are starting to invite sponsors for the show. So you'll see some of those changes if you're listening and you have a business that you'd like to become a sponsor or learn about our referral program. You can also shoot us an email and we'll share all those details too. It's pretty exciting.
Yay. Well, happy summer, everybody. And we hope to hear from you. And we'll be back late summer or early fall, but we're for sure taking at least a couple of months of detaching, you know, from some of this work. So yes, we're grateful, but we'll for sure be back.
Floating on the water, soaking up the sun.
Yay.
Love you all. Thanks, Ash.
Happy summer.